Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I had a whole bunch of people send me a story out of Ohio, and Ohio, of course, is one of the states very, very close to Michigan, so I'm always curious what's happening down in Ohio. From WKBN.com, Ohio warns of driver's license scam. Patty Collar wrote this. It's kind of a short article, but it's scary what happens these days because everything is online. Everything is online. And of course, there's bad people out there who will hack into things that are online. And so we hear about all the time there being data breaches where someone's gotten into a system they shouldn't have gotten into and just downloaded tons of information, and they use that information for nefarious purposes. So out of Columbus, there's a new theft scheme out there that targets your driver's license and online Bureau of Motor Vehicle accounts. So again, this is happening in Ohio. The Ohio Department of Public Safety issued a warning recently about what they're calling a sophisticated identity theft scheme, which targets drivers everywhere, but in particular, Ohio. First discovered in Texas, the scheme involves the use of stolen personal information to answer online BMV security questions and gain access to accounts. Once inside the accounts, the thieves request a driver's license or ID card to be mailed to a new address. And so you can go online in many states and handle almost anything that you can do at your DMV or your Secretary of State's office, and you can do that online. Renew your license plate tags, renew your driver's license. Now, sometimes they'll need you to come in to take your picture or something, but a lot of the stuff can be done online. So to confirm it's you, they might ask you a couple basic questions. And of course, if that information's been hacked, someone else can do it. So thousands of unauthorized replacement driver's licenses were sent out using stolen personal information in Texas, but then in Ohio, the BMV discovered 90 instances where stolen information was used to obtain or attempt to obtain a driver's license reprint. So somebody would log into the system and go, I lost my driver's license. And by the way, I need it sent to a new address. So I'm going to update my address and get a new driver's license. How's that? You'd think that would be a flag of some sort that both those happen at the same time, but no state of Ohio system was breached, and investigators don't know where the thieves got the victim's personal information to access those accounts, but it did happen 90 times, 90. So it does sound like something may have happened that the state can't figure out just yet. This scheme is incredibly concerning, not only because criminals are ordering up legitimate driver's licenses, but because they can use these cards and the stolen personal information to potentially access your bank account. That's the Department of Public Safety Director Andy Wilson speaking. If you receive a postcard from the Ohio BMV telling you about an address change you did not request, it's important that you immediately take action. And so they do those kinds of things sometimes. You move, you change your address. They'll often send a card to your old address just to let you know that your address was changed with us, and this is to confirm that. And so you got one of those, be sure you read it. The problem is the cards look like junk mail, but they do send them out. The fraud has been reported to all state and federal authorities, and additional resources have been devoted to monitoring the criminal activity. Because of that, it's unlikely that any more fraudulent requests will be fulfilled. However, if you receive a postcard notifying you of online profile changes that you did not make, you should immediately contact the BMV and file a report with your local police. I've had people tell me they filed a report with their local police, and the police took the report and said, thank you very much. I've also people tell me the police said, why are you calling us now? No. We have more important things to do. We have actual crimes. And don't get me wrong, that is an actual crime. But sometimes they'll say priority-wise, that is so low on the ladder that it really doesn't get to our desk. I'm sorry. So also keep in mind, besides just accessing things like, your bank accounts, if they had information and would allow them to know where your bank accounts were, of course, they can be out driving around doing crazy stuff and get tickets in your name and not pay them. And you would figure this out when you got pulled over somewhere down the road and got arrested on an outstanding warrant. Because if you don't respond to a ticket, quite often they will issue a bench warrant for your arrest. So you're driving down the road one day, police officer pulls you over, says, do you know why I pulled you over? You say, I have no idea. And he says, well, I got an outstanding warrant that says that you didn't show up in court for a ticket you received. And you're like, I haven't received a ticket in years. Well, no, it says right here you received a ticket in some other county far, far away, and you didn't respond to it. So we have a bench warrant for your arrest. So you may or may not have a story to tell me. I don't care. You're going in. And by in, I mean to jail. and you'll better, be arrested and taken to jail, or they'll make you post some kind of money to get out. And often it'll be based on what your original charge was that you didn't know about because it wasn't actually you. And so that's the real problem here in my mind. For more information on steps you can take, or if your identity is stolen, you can look up the Ohio Attorney General's office on the internet. Google that and you'll find information on identity theft defense, things you can do. But the tickets that people can get in your name, and of course they get handed the ticket, they drive off and throw it away, and you never know about it. By the way, the notices about that ticket might be sent, of course, to the new address, not to your old address, because you might be living at your old address, but the state has been told that you moved when they issued you the new license at your new address. So it can get ugly. I actually drove through Ohio a couple weeks ago, went to Pennsylvania for an event involving Tucker automobiles, and on the way there, I took the Ohio Turnpike, and I was driving east towards Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden, the traffic on the other side disappeared. And this is on a Friday. No traffic at all. Zero. So I knew something had happened up ahead. And I'm wondering what happened up ahead. And the day before, there'd been a horrible, horrible storm that had gone through the Midwest. And it blew through where I lived briefly and bent over a bunch of trees, but nothing on my property got damaged. I saw trees down in the neighborhood. But after a little bit, I figured out what was going on. There were telephone poles. And I don't know if they're telephone poles in reality or power line poles, but they were big, big poles that were wooden, that were snapped off with the lines still on them, and they'd fallen into the westbound lanes. And because these lines were still attached and the poles all snapped, there are all these poles laying in the road with the power lines still attached to them. And that was going on for probably a half mile or a mile. I didn't measure it, but it seemed like quite a length of time. And then eventually the road went like this, away from the poles, and the poles were snapped down out in the fields. But for a big stretch of the road, the poles were down in the roadway. And sadly, got up to the first exit preceding all the snapped power line poles. And there were vehicles that were being pushed off the highway by the state police, and they'd set up cones and flares, and they were doing this to everybody, including the long-haul truckers and the people going on vacation and whatever. That backup went for miles, and it went back to the next exit where it happened again. And so I saw cars backed up for miles and miles, miles and miles, miles and miles, all because of these downed power line poles. And over that weekend, I stayed in Hershey because that's where the car museum is that was holding the 75th anniversary Tucker event. And I would check the Turnpike News from Ohio to see what was happening. And I wound up having to take a different route back because I don't think they'd had that cleared up completely just yet. I think they managed to clear one or two lanes, but not all the lanes because they were trying to fix those poles. What is the craziest thing, one of the largest backups I've ever seen. Crazy, absolutely crazy. And then on the way back, actually managed to go by the Flight 93 Memorial, which is in Pennsylvania, because on my alternate route, I figured, hey, check it out. It's right there. So I checked it out. It's very, very, very cool memorial to check out, the Flight 93 Memorial. So this story, however, warns you of the driver's license scam. Make sure that you've got all of this stuff set up online as secure as you can make it, and follow this stuff carefully. And you can log in right now. I know in Michigan you can. You can log in right now and look at all your information and make sure it's correct. And so if I logged in right now and looked at my information, I can look at what my address is shown as and the other information. And if that was changed, I'd spot it immediately, obviously. So you can do that also just as a precaution. But be aware that it happened in Texas with a lot of people, and it recently happened in Ohio with 90 people. And Ohio says we have no idea how it happened. It was not a massive data breach. But then again, they don't know how it happened. So there you go. So from WKBN.com, Patty Collar wrote that. Ohio warns of new driver's license scam. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You know you're getting old when the police start to look like high school age kids.